I took that challenge and I said, okay, cool, let me do a little bit of demos around this. And one of the BI tools that was mentioned was Superset. So I'm going to do Superset here. The other one that's one of my favorites is Metabase. So I'm also going to show Metabase here because I think it's a little kind of an easier setup. And of course, it's open source too. So, free is free. So the thing we're going to look at here is we're going to go through each piece. I'm going to download the sample.ondaraya.com people 1.4 million row data set. I'm going to load it to RustFS. So we all know that MinIO is on maintenance mode now and being deprecated for the free local thing. So I've switched over to RustFS. Just started using it. Don't have any opinions on it yet, but I'll do a future video to kind of walk through that setup as well. So you'll notice in my Docker Compose, I'm using Docker. I have RustFS, and RustFS just has a kind of a GUI UI that I'm going to add a simple bucket to, and then kind of walk through the, show you where that I stored the data for DuckLake and how DuckLake kind of stores the thing in Parquet. We'll go through all that in a second, but this is a light setup here. This is RustFS, and then I'm doing Metabase. Right, you can see my Metabase, and then I'm doing Superset. Here, and there's a little bit of config I have to do that we'll show later, and I'm probably gonna make this repo public in the next few days. So if you watched the video, like the video, keep an eye out for the repo. We'll make that available to you. RustFS is a little different. I had to tweak the DuckLake setup to use RustFS locally because that's not inherently part of the container and it's not supported in the current version on AWS. Currently, you'll have to use an AWS bucket to test with, but Lakehouse is S3 compatible. So the same thing kind of works here. I just had to do a little magic to make it work with the container in the current state for these videos. Okay, we've come on over to RustFS. I have it running. You see I have the DuckLake bucket here. A couple things new to RustFS. So a couple things I had to do. Once I made the bucket, I just created a bucket, went to settings, made it public so that it's accessible from my code. And you'll see that there's a username and password for RustFS. The UI comes in localhost 9001. The actual API endpoints are in 9000, so when you're configuring this, keep that in mind. So again, the DuckLake itself, the DuckLake catalog is being stored in Postgres, right? That's in the container. In the bucket, whenever you write it, here I wrote it to data main people, right? It creates a Parquet file. So I brought in the 1.4 million rows, landed it to RustFS here as a Parquet file in the catalog. So I basically just ran a config, which is a data insert. And let me show you what that looks like. So load data, sample data set. So basically I just did the normal things as you guys have seen if you've looked at my other repos. I'm attaching DuckLake, I'm calling my sample data set, creating the secret for it, attaching the catalog, and then loading that data. And when I load that data, it creates a table, and in that table, this stores the table catalog part in Postgres and the Parquet files, in this case, RustFS. And the S3 compatible, right? R2 is good. If you've never used R2, R2 has 0 egress fees. So if you're on S3 and AWS, some of your new stuff, maybe Cloudflare has R2 with no egress. So just keep that in mind. It's a recommendation I always like to recommend in my videos because I use it heavily for my SaaS, and I'm sure that you guys can find use for that. It definitely saves those egress fees, especially when you have queries coming, when you're allowing people to query your data. It's definitely helpful. So this is the data set that we're going to work with. and configured in RustFS. So now I'm going to kind of move over to Metabase and do the Metabase walkthrough for you. All right, so this is Metabase. We're walking through the connection here to connect to DuckLake in the container, going through a couple data viz. So this is the first one we're going through. So you see the database type is DuckDB. This is a community driver. You'd have to search for it. So you just go Duck, if I spell, you go DuckDB. Okay, you pick that. I just put display name as Duck. It doesn't matter. So a couple things that are important. One, database file you should use in memory because you're not really writing or reading to DuckDB. You're connecting to the catalog that we made, right? So again, the catalog is in Postgres. The data, I'm using local S3 compatible storage, RustFS. So it's connected. That's where the data is being stored at. And I'm connecting to the Postgres DuckLake directly. It's not configured as a server. We're just using the regular DuckDB connection because any place that you can add the DuckDB connection, you can attach DuckLake. So first one is Metabase. You notice we're in memory, not doing a file. And then down here is the important part. So we're running SQL here to init this DuckLake extension. So I'm installing DuckLake, installing Postgres, loading DuckLake, loading Postgres, create a secret. Again, this is running locally for me inside of Docker. So you see that I'm attaching this DuckLake catalog on Postgres, where this is the host. And then the key thing here is once you attach it as Lake, you want to use Lake because if not, it won't be able to query things for you. The other piece here is that when you first configure DuckLake, you need to attach the data and the data path. Whenever you're reattaching the catalog separately, you don't have to. You could just attach the catalog as Lake without specifying the data path and then make sure you're using Lake. Okay, so this is how I have it configured. Again, this is Metabase. I'm going to exit admin and I have the people data set. It's sample.andariah.com/people.csv. It's about 1.4 million records-ish. I'm going to take a look at it, and you see that it is 1.4 million records. And then I can look at the people. You see how fast it pulls up all the rows here as I'm scrolling through. Again, this is 1.4 million records. I'm going to do a summary on it. I don't know. Let's do count of people ID. We know count by age. You see how fast the dashboard's going through this, right? And doing these aggregations on top of this data Lakehouse. So this is the Metabase version of this. I'm also going to do Superset, but this is a good, just kind of a good POC. A lot of interested readers brought up some good points that this container, isn't useful unless you can attach some kind of data viz onto it. And you can see how fast the data viz spins up and does aggregations on top of the Lakehouse. Okay, we've went through Metabase. Now we're going to go through Superset. Superset's a little trickier. I'll be honest, I had to spend a little bit of time. I never messed with Superset, but it's not exactly straightforward how to configure it. So I'll probably be posting a repo on my site for those of you who use Superset and want to take advantage of this container. Just let me show you how it works in Superset, and then let me show you some of the config I had to do behind the scenes to really make this work. So first things first, right? We're going to add a, We're going to add a database connection. Okay. You see I have a DuckDB here. I'm going to go ahead and trash that one, and we'll just do it fresh for purpose of demonstration. So I can kind of walk you through that. Oh, good. Data set's attached to it. Okay, let's make a new one just so you can see. So you'll look in my data sets. There is a DuckDB. Do not choose this DuckDB. This is for querying DuckDB directly and attaching to a DuckDB instance. In order to use DuckLake, you have to go down and click Other. And then we're going to, again, use an in-memory instance here. So DuckDB, and then I'm going to call that memory. Okay, and I'm going to test this connection. you'll see the connection looks good. So I'm attached to a DuckDB memory instance. Why? Oh, because it has the same name. No worries. How do I rename it? Display name. That's why. Okay, so let's call this DuckDB2. Test connection. Still works. Connect. Okay. So DuckDB2, again, I don't work a lot with Superset, so you'll have to excuse some of my fumbling. So DuckDB2 is what we're going to use. Now I'm going to go over here to SQL Lab, and you saw earlier that I had attached the Andorra data set. The data set is 1.4 blah 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 rows, right? So I have configured DuckDB to connect. Now the part that you didn't see is I have a script behind the scenes that does a little bit of attachment for me so that this DuckDB connection can just run DuckLake. Okay, and you'll see that I can do aggregations here. I can save the data set as this query, and I can explore the data here. I can go to aggregates, you know, whatever you kind of want to do here, just like you would do on a regular database, custom SQL, however you want to do it, right? I have that full, you can see the age here, you can see current region ID, all the data. So it works just like it would if you were connecting to DuckDB directly or connecting to something else. Okay, now I've showed you that it works. Now the trickery behind the scenes. Okay, if you'll see my Visual Studio Code here, basically what I'm doing is attaching a config, superset config, to the actual container. And behind the scenes, since Superset runs on SQL Alchemy, I can kind of use that to create this setup. And this does all the attaching for me. And then a initdb connection. And the event listens for the engine connect. So it's listening, and if DuckDB connection comes on a new DuckDB connection, then we connect to this database using the DuckLake format, right? If it's not DuckDB, then we don't care. So that's the little bit of trickery here. You can't directly set it up inside of the UI that I could find. Not saying you can't. That just had some stumbling blocks for me personally. But there is this config that I do. And then, of course, I'm using the Superset container. So there is this Superset init with users and things I do. Here's my Docker file for Superset, and then I just spin it up. So I know there is kind of a newness here. And, you know, a lot of these data viz are kind of a traditional, I can point it at Postgres, I can point it at SQL Server. And, you know, pointing at this Lakehouse is a little new. But as you can see in some of these queries that I'm doing, the speed of the Lakehouse and how fast DuckLake handles it, and I'm putting it in the same data viz tools that you're using for other things. So kind of coming to the end of this, but I want to give a shout out. I really appreciate users in LinkedIn asking the hard questions and asking, you know, hey, it doesn't do me any good if it can't do blah. And that's really why we're here to support that. And we're here to make the videos and provide the resources, developer experience, make your life easier. Instead of fighting other tools, we're trying to make drop-in solutions that just work for you. So that's my spiel on Superset and Metabase. I hope you've enjoyed walking through that with the DuckLake, and I appreciate the time. As always, thank you for joining. Please like and subscribe.